The silent invasion. The skies above NASA's Deep Space Network facility in Goldstone, California remained calm and clear, betraying nothing of the chaos that would soon engulf humanity. Dr. Lyra Kane, the facility's lead astrobiologist, had been working a standard shift when the first anomalies appeared on their long-range sensors. "That can't be right," her colleague, Dr. Marcus Chen, muttered as he recalibrated the equipment. "Something's interfering with our readings." Lyra moved closer to examine the data. The anomalies were subtle, slight distortions in expected radiation patterns from the outer solar system. Most would dismiss them as equipment malfunction, but Lyra had spent 15 years studying cosmic radiation patterns. These weren't random. They moved with purpose. "It's not interference," she said, her voice suddenly tense. "Those are objects. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, moving in formation." The realization triggered an emergency protocol that would soon include every major space agency on Earth. Within hours, observatories worldwide confirmed what Lyra had discovered. A fleet of unidentified objects had entered the solar system and was methodically advancing toward Earth. General Alexandra Volkov of the United Nations Space Defense Coalition arrived at Goldstone the following day. Her weathered face remained stoic as Lyra presented the findings, but her eyes betrayed concern. "Do we have any indication of their intentions?" Volkov asked. Lyra shook her head. "They're maintaining radio silence, but their approach vector is deliberate. They're adjusting course to compensate for planetary movement. This isn't random drift. They're coming specifically to us. How long do we have?" "At their current velocity, 3 weeks until they reach Earth orbit. 3 weeks to prepare for a potential encounter with an alien civilization." The world's governments maintained public calm while frantically mobilizing behind the scenes. Military satellites were reoriented. Defense systems were activated globally. The International Space Station was evacuated, converted into an observation platform with advanced imaging equipment. 7 days passed with agonizing slowness. The objects, now nicknamed the visitors by media that had caught wind of something happening, maintained their steady approach. Scientists determined they were roughly cylindrical vessels measuring approximately 1 kilometer in length, surrounded by smaller craft. 23 main vessels in total. On the 8th day, they broke their silence. The message came simultaneously to every major communications array on Earth: radio telescopes, military installations, even commercial broadcast stations. It was a simple data packet containing a visual transmission. When decoded, it revealed a humanoid figure with mottled gray skin, elongated limbs, and large, multifaceted eyes that reflected light like polished obsidian. The alien spoke in a guttural language that no human could understand, but the transmission included mathematical formulas that served as the basis for a rudimentary translation algorithm. Within hours, linguists and computer scientists had deciphered enough to understand the essence of the message. "People of Earth," the translation began, "we are the Vexnar Imperium. Your world has been selected for integration. Resistance is biologically futile. Prepare to receive our emissaries." The transmission ended with a precise time: 72 hours. World leaders gathered in an emergency United Nations session. Military options were discussed, but ultimately dismissed. Humanity had no weapons capable of engaging an adversary in deep space, and the technological gap between Earth and the Vexnar was unknown, but presumably vast. Lyra had been brought to New York to advise the Security Council. While politicians debated diplomatic approaches, she worked with a team of scientists to analyze every scrap of data about the approaching fleet. "There's something odd about their radiation signature," she told General Volkov during a brief recess. "They're emitting specific wavelengths that don't match their propulsion systems." "What does that mean for us?" Volkov asked. "I'm not sure yet, but it could be a clue to their technology or their biology." The 72-hour deadline approached with excruciating slowness. Earth prepared as best it could. Military forces worldwide were placed on high alert. Civilian populations in major cities were urged to evacuate to rural areas as a precaution. Panic buying emptied store shelves despite government assurances. When the deadline arrived, the Vexnar fleet had reached lunar orbit. 7 smaller vessels detached from the main fleet and descended toward Earth, positioning themselves above major cities: New York, Beijing, Moscow, London, New Delhi, Cairo, and Tokyo. The world watched in collective terror as the vessels hovered silently above the metropolitan areas. From each ship emerged smaller craft that descended to designated landing zones, areas that world governments had hastily prepared for first contact. The beams that emerged from these shuttles matched the figure from the transmission. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, their gray-skinned bodies covered in what appeared to be a form of living armor that pulsed with faint bioluminescence. They carried no visible weapons but moved with unsettling grace and precision. In New York, the UN Secretary-General greeted the alien delegation with a carefully prepared welcome. The Vexnar emissary regarded him silently before raising a 6-fingered hand. From this gesture came a projected hologram displaying Earth and its resources. "Your world has been assessed." The alien spoke through a translation device. "It contains resources valuable to the Imperium. You will surrender control of extraction sites we designate. Resistance will result in biological rectification." The clinical tone carried an unmistakable threat. Earth's representatives requested time to consider this demand. A request granted with cold indifference. The emissaries returned to their ships, giving humanity 24 hours to comply. In the aftermath, Lyra worked feverishly with her team, analyzing recordings of the aliens and their technology. Something about the radiation readings continued to nag at her. When she finally made the connection, she nearly knocked over her workstation in her haste to reach General Volkov. "They're terraformers," she explained breathlessly. "The radiation signature, it's consistent with atmospheric modification technology. I've cross-referenced it with data from our own terraforming research for Mars." Volkov frowned. "What are you saying?" "They're not here for trade or resources in the conventional sense. They're preparing to transform Earth, to make it compatible with their biology. The extraction sites they mentioned, those are initialization points for atmospheric conversion." The implication was clear. The Vexnar intended to remake Earth to suit themselves, with no regard for human survival. Intercepted communications from their fleet, partially decrypted by Earth's best codebreakers, confirmed this theory. The Vexnar had done this before, dozens, perhaps hundreds of times. They traveled from world to world, transforming habitable planets to match their home environment and harvesting biological material for their living technology. As the 24-hour deadline approached, humanity faced an impossible choice: surrender and face extinction, or resist an enemy with vastly superior technology. It was Dr. Marcus Chen who found the first potential weakness. Analyzing samples collected from landing sites, he discovered that the Vexnar armor, a symbiotic organism bonded to their bodies, exhibited sensitivity to certain frequencies of ultraviolet radiation that were harmless to humans. "It's not much," he admitted, "but it's something. Their biological technology seems vulnerable to specific wavelengths that our technology routinely filters out." Lyra expanded on this discovery, theorizing that the Vexnar might have evolved on a world with a different stellar radiation profile, one that made them vulnerable to specific frequencies abundant on Earth. With the deadline hours away, a desperate plan formed. Earth would appear to comply with the Vexnar demands, while secretly preparing a coordinated strike using modified ultraviolet emitters. It was a gamble based on limited data, but it was the only hope humanity had. As the alien motherships descended toward Earth to begin their work, humanity prepared for its last stand. Lyra watched from the command center as cities worldwide went dark, conserving power for what might be their final act of defiance. "Do you think this will work?" Volkov asked her quietly. Lyra didn't answer immediately. The plan depended on so many variables, So many assumptions about an alien biology they barely understood. If it doesn't, she finally said, at least we didn't surrender without a fight. As the massive ships breached Earth's atmosphere, casting kilometer-long shadows over the designated extraction sites, humanity held its breath and prepared to execute its desperate gambit. Defiance rising. Dawn broke over a world transformed by fear. The Vexnar motherships hovered above 7 cities, their massive hulls blocking the sun and casting premature twilight over millions of people. Smaller vessels descended, carrying equipment that began assembling itself into towering structures, the first stage of their atmospheric conversion process. In a bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Lyra Kane watched satellite feeds from around the globe. Every nation had contributed to the desperate counteroffensive. Power grids had been reconfigured to channel energy to massive UV emitters disguised as standard defense installations. The plan was simple in concept, but hellishly complex in execution. When the Vexnar began their conversion process, Earth would unleash a precisely calibrated spectrum of ultraviolet radiation, theorized to disrupt their biological technology. The New Delhi site has gone active, reported a technician. On screen, one of the alien structures had begun to pulse with energy, a sickly green glow spreading around its base. Moscow and Cairo reporting the same, said another voice. General Volkov nodded grimly. It's time. Initiate Operation Sunburn. Around the world, the hidden emitters powered up. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The UV wavelengths were invisible to the human eye. Then came the first reports from field operatives. No effect in London. Wait, some of the smaller aliens appeared disoriented. Tokyo reporting minimal disruption to alien operations. New York site continuing conversion process unabated. Lyra's heart sank. The radiation was having some effect on the Vexnar biology, but nothing close to what they'd hoped for. The aliens seemed momentarily uncomfortable at worst. Within minutes, the Vexnar had identified the source of the radiation. Precision strikes from their vessels destroyed the emitters. In retaliation, conversion accelerators were deployed at each site, accelerating the process. The atmosphere around the structures began to shift, taking on a greenish hue as alien compounds were introduced. We've failed, Volkov said quietly. Lyra refused to accept defeat. No, we've learned something. The radiation affected them, just not enough. We need to reevaluate. While the first human counteroffensive faltered, the Vexnar expansion continued. The alien compounds spread through the atmosphere surrounding the extraction sites, creating bubbles of foreign air that slowly expanded. Anyone caught within these zones suffered immediate respiratory distress. Conventional weapons fired at the structures were neutralized by defensive fields. Evacuation orders went out for regions surrounding the affected cities. Refugees clogged highways and backroads as people fled the advancing toxic zones. Military forces established perimeters, scientists desperately sampling the alien atmosphere in hopes of finding a countermeasure. It was during one such analysis that Dr. Marcus Chen made a critical discovery. The Vexnar atmospheric compounds were reacting unexpectedly with Earth's native microbial life. Common soil bacteria were metabolizing certain components, producing byproducts toxic to the alien biology. It's our microbes, he explained to Lyra over a hasty video conference. Earth's microbiome is fighting back against their terraforming. Not enough to stop it, but the reaction is there. This revelation sparked a new avenue of research. Within hours, labs worldwide were cultivating specific bacterial strains that showed the strongest reactions to Vexnar compounds. Meanwhile, the aliens continued their methodical work, seemingly unaware of the microscopic resistance Earth was mounting. 3 days into the invasion, humanity launched its second counteroffensive. Agricultural drones, retrofitted with specialized dispensers, were deployed at the edges of the conversion zones. Their payload, concentrated solutions of Earth bacteria identified as most reactive to Vexnar biology. The effects were subtle at first. The expansion of the alien atmosphere slowed. Then reports came in of malfunctions in the conversion equipment, small at first, then cascading. The living components of Vexnar technology were showing signs of distress. When the aliens sent teams to investigate, they encountered air saturated with microbes their biology had never evolved to resist. Their living armor began to deteriorate, exposing them to the full spectrum of Earth's microbial diversity. What had been an inconvenience became a crisis for the invaders. They've never encountered this specific microbial ecosystem, Lyra explained to world leaders. Their technology is biological, integrated with their bodies. They can't simply put on protective suits. Their equipment is their protection, and it's failing against organisms they never planned for. The Vexnar attempted to adapt. They released their own biological countermeasures, engineered organisms designed to neutralize Earth's microbes. This triggered impromptu evolutionary warfare on a microscopic scale. But Earth had the home field advantage. Billions of years of evolution had created a robust, diverse microbiome that adapted faster than the Vexnar could counteract. Within a week, the aliens began withdrawing from the extraction sites. Their structures, now compromised by microbial infiltration, were abandoned or destroyed. The motherships pulled back to higher orbit, beyond the reach of Earth's atmospheric defenders. A new transmission arrived from the Vexnar command vessel. The same alien figure appeared, but its composure had noticeably deteriorated. "Your world is marked as biological hazard," the translation stated. The defense mechanism was unanticipated. "We withdraw under Protocol 7. Containment measures will be implemented." The transmission ended with a warning that humanity initially struggled to translate. When they finally decoded it, the message was chilling. The collective will be notified of resistance. As the alien fleet departed the solar system, humanity began the process of recovery. The extraction sites had caused significant environmental damage, but nothing irreversible. More concerning was the implication of the Vexnar's parting message, that they were part of something larger, and that Earth's successful defense would not go unnoticed. In the aftermath, Lyra Kane became the head of a new international organization, the Planetary Defense Initiative. Its mission was to prepare humanity for the possibility of future encounters with the Vexnar or whatever collective they served. "We got lucky," she explained at the inaugural meeting. "Our microscopic allies gave us an edge the Vexnar weren't prepared for. But we can't count on biological incompatibility saving us next time. We need to understand their technology, their motivations, and develop our own defenses." The invasion had united humanity in unprecedented ways. National rivalries gave way to cooperation as Earth's nations pooled resources and knowledge. Space programs accelerated, defense systems were modernized, and xenobiology became the fastest-growing field of scientific research. 6 months after the departure of the Vexnar, observatories detected faint signals from the edge of the solar system, not alien vessels, but what appeared to be automated probes. They maintained distance, merely observing. Earth was being watched. General Volkov, now the military director of the PDI, viewed these developments with a mixture of concern and determination. "They're studying us," she said during a briefing, "learning from their failure." "And we're learning too," Lyra responded. "Every day, we understand more about their technology from what they left behind. We're preparing." The probes became a constant presence at the edges of Earth's detection range, a reminder that humanity's first contact with an alien civilization had been hostile, and that the universe beyond their solar system might hold countless other threats. But they also served as motivation, driving human innovation and unity with a common purpose. In research facilities worldwide, scientists studied the abandoned Vexnar technology, learning its principles and developing countermeasures. Engineers incorporated these insights into new defensive systems. Earth's collective scientific knowledge expanded rapidly, driven by the urgent need to prepare. 1 year after the invasion, Lyra stood at a podium before the United Nations General Assembly. Behind her was a holographic display showing the position of the alien probes, the projected path of the departed Vexnar fleet, and the defense systems now protecting Earth. "We faced extinction and survived," she told the gathered representatives. "Not through military might or technological superiority, but through the unique biology of our world and our ability to adapt. The Vexnar underestimated us, seeing only our technological development without understanding the complex ecosystem we're part of." She gestured to the display. "They're still watching, and they're not the only ones out there. The universe is vast and likely filled with civilizations we can't yet imagine. Some may be friendly, others hostile. But whatever comes next, humanity will be ready." As Lyra concluded her address, in laboratories and observatories around the world, humanity continued its work, preparing defenses, studying alien technology, and looking toward the stars with new understanding. The Vexnar invasion had nearly been Earth's end, but instead became the catalyst for its ascension. Earth had proven itself against its first cosmic test. Whatever came next, humanity would face it together.